he would have allowed such presentation of such evidence. But anyway, the prosecution has presented already, I think, 80% or more of its case in Article 2.
Article 2.
And we've seen that unfold despite their bungling. We've seen the properties, we've seen the bank accounts. This would have been additional evidence that would paint almost a complete picture of the Chief Justice. So, but the media anyway has gotten hold of the platinum, what it all means to be in a platinum card holder, and it raises very serious questions on ethics. It's a core issue in the integrity of a person or a public official. Why did Chief Justice Corona accept a platinum card? He should not have even in the first place accepted it. It's very clear that it's a favor given to him. And there were pending cases in the Supreme Court, a big one rather, of PAL, a pending case of PAL, yeah.
But considering that, of course, the court decided not to include that testimony and those pieces of evidence, well, in a way, how do you think the prosecution can still build Article 3? As of now, is Article 3 dead, so to speak? Is it something that you think the prosecution is inclined to drop?
I think they have nothing more to present on Article 3. We were expecting, and Rappler has written a story on the personal expenses of the Chief Justice reimbursed by the Supreme Court using public funds. For example, he bought a wedding gift. He had the tailoring of 2 Barong Tagalogs paid for by public funds. But apparently this was not accepted by Enrile during the first time it was about to be presented by Congressman Fariñas.
Yes.
So they're not pushing it apparently today because they have moved on to Article 7. So Article 3 is gone.
Okay.
And we've not really learned much except about the recall of the FASAP decision, which can be said to be collegial.
Yes, that's right. So in terms of linking the Chief Justice to this particular decision that wasn't established so much.
Yes, it's bad for the prosecution that they were not able to to make a big point about the platinum cards and the freebies of the Chief Justice. So there's not much really there's not much we can get from Article 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on to Article 7, actually this is one of the most controversial. This is fresh in the public's mind. Of course, we remember this happened late last year, November, that attempt of former President Arroyo to flee, and now we have Justice Secretary Laila De Lima testifying this afternoon. So what do you think must be established this time? What should the prosecution be cautious in presenting this, in showing that, the Chief Justice had something to do with this?
It's very difficult to do it with just one witness, with Justice Secretary Laila De Lima. It would have been important to bring in a justice of the Supreme Court, for example, Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno, who in her dissent chronicled the timetable and the events leading to the TRO, and which clearly showed that Chief Justice Corona altered or revised the resolution of the entire court to favor former President Arroyo. So that is available in the dissent of Justice Sereno, but whether she will testify or not, still a big question mark. And also, the prosecution has been blocked by the Supreme Court order. It's really, again, closing a big door that would have been open to them before. Because if the prosecution were able to subpoena the documents, it would have shown that there was a resolution of the NBank, and it would have shown the handwriting of Chief Justice Corona altering some phrases in the resolution which showed partiality to Mrs. Arroyo. But, well, we can only read that in the dissent of Justice Sereno, and it's still a hanging question if she will be testifying here or not.
So let's go back to Article 7. There are different issues there. They said that Corona allegedly helped the Arroyos escape prosecution, and the phrase was to frustrate the ends of justice. They mentioned the conditions of the TRO and that there were certain conditions that were not met, but still the Supreme Court said the TRO was executory. So what do you think are the issues that are at play here?
I think first it's very important to show the timeline because things moved so quickly. It's important, I think, for the prosecution to lay this down and then show that special treatment was accorded Mrs. Arroyo by keeping the cashier's office open until about 6 or 6:30 p.m. that day for her lawyer to be able to pay the bond. The events moved so quickly, and then Chief Justice Corona briefed the spokesperson, Midas Marquez, about what transpired in the court, the voting. And then Midas Marquez announced that the TRO is final and executory. Yet we find out in the dissent of Justice Sereno that the vote wasn't so. It was a close vote of 7-6, not 9-4, as Maida informed the public. So it's important to show the timeline before even interviewing or direct questioning Justice Secretary Laila De Lima.
Okay.
There has to be a context to this. So I don't know how the prosecution will be able to present it effectively. They have first to narrate the story. Will they be allowed to do a timeline with PowerPoint as what Kakabag-aw wanted to do?
Yes.
So let's see, because otherwise they'll just have to rely on Justice Secretary Laila De Lima's narrative, which is only maybe one half of the story.
Let's talk about that Supreme Court resolution. It barred the justices from testifying, from responding to the subpoena. But does it also equal barring them from testifying if they are willing to, like if they volunteer? Is that covered by the resolution?
No, actually the justices can volunteer, but they take the risk because it means that they will be defying the order of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
But in the dissent of Justice Sereno, she says that confidentiality, there's a higher good involved. If there's a higher public interest involved, like transparency and accountability, then there should be no secrets and confidentiality should not be upheld. So that's her dissent in the Supreme Court decision to bar justices from testifying. So that's why we're all awaiting with excitement if she gets invited, will she accept? It's a risk she takes, but again, the prosecution should also be able to present a very tight narrative if they ask her to be here. Otherwise, it's also a waste of resource if they're not able to question her very well.
Speaking of that narrative, how do you think that can be done, considering that the defense objects if a fact or a story comes from the mouth of the prosecutor, they say that it should come from the witness. So for example, this afternoon, should it be Secretary De Lima narrating? Is there any other way do you think that can be done?
Yes, so I think that like Kakabag-aw, she tried to present the timeline without a PowerPoint, but it was a bit confusing.
Okay.
So maybe here they will just give an introduction, a context, and then Justice Secretary Laila De Lima will have to provide the rest of the details. As you said, Justice Cuevas is such a good objector. You know, as one lawyer said, you're arguing with an encyclopedia. Because he teaches that.
Yes.
Tupas was his student, so he really knows his stuff very well. So I assume that Congressman Colmenares apparently is in charge of this. So I hope he has prepared very well to do battle with an encyclopedia.
I think so because you invited him for an interview and he said he has to prepare for this afternoon for Article 7. So we will see how all this plays out as they introduce Article 7 for the first time. Stay tuned for that and many more developments this afternoon starting at 2 p.m.